Do you need a tech partner or a CTO, or can you just use AI to build software and guide you through the process? And after all, ChatGPT is supposedly as smart as 5 PhDs, or the rest of the AI companies seem to be making the same claim. And so you, as a non-technical software founder, wonder, well, why should I either partner with a technical co-founder or pay for a CTO or a dev studio or something like that if I can just use AI for free? And this is a very valid question, but let's take a step back and think about what ChatGPT or AI is and what a tech partner is. So at the foundation, what ChatGPT or what LLMs are machines that predict text. They're engineered to emulate how humans speak. That's why they're called large language models, right? So they're really good at completion, but they're not really smart. And Apple released a paper explaining why they don't really think. And you might have heard of the term prompt engineering, context engineering, etc., etc. Now, what these things mean is to get the results you want out of AI, you need to prompt it properly. And what does it mean to prompt an AI properly? Well, in this case, if you're building software, is telling the AI what things are important, what is your current situation, the things that matter to you, the things that don't matter to you, what are the frameworks that you wanted to use, etc., etc. Now, to say those things and to convey those things to AI, you need to know what those things are. You need to know the trade-offs that you're willing to make, the trade-offs that you're not, etc. If you've spent any significant time talking to, I'll use ChatGPT, but basically all of them behave in a very similar manner. If you've spoken to ChatGPT for any amount of time, you'll realize that it's basically like a yes man. If you tell it, I want to build something, it says, yes, sir, right away. And it gives you a solution. And then you tell it, oh, but I also care about this other factor. Say, oh, I'm sorry, you're right, let's do that. So it always agrees with you. And that is the key element that's missing if you're trying to get guidance from these tools. When you work with a tech partner, or you bring in a technical co-founder, or you bring in a CTO, the actual value that they provide to you as a non-technical founder is not necessarily the ability to write code or the ability to solve things. You could always do that with Google. Now, granted, AI makes that an awful lot easier, but the real value that they provide is a pushback, is a understanding of your situation, of your goals holistically, and provide the best solution. So for example, that might mean don't put all the features at once because they're going to take a lot of time. And even if you were to ask ChatGPT, should I put all the features at once? You need to be aware that you need to ask that question because that's important. So there are so many layers of communication and understanding that you need to have to make sure that you don't make mistakes. And that is actually the real value that, again, a tech partner, and it can be in any different form, but a tech partner provides to you as a non-technical founder. And as an example, for context, I run a dev studio. We build SaaS products. We build AI integrations for our clients. And the past week, we started working on a client project. And his situation is he built what he thought was an almost complete MVP for a SaaS, but in reality, it was closer to a proof of concept or a clickable prototype for the SaaS that he wanted to make. And the reality is he's not technical. He had a great idea, and I think the product is going to go ahead and be actually very successful. But for his MVP, his first version, he put way too many features into it. He was using the wrong technologies. He was using the popular one that Cursor was recommending him to use. And right now, what we suggested to him is we're not going to do a complete rebuild because it's better than having nothing, but we're going to have to clean a lot of the code and say, okay, what is actually going to be into the MVP, and like how should we structure this, and what are the things that actually matters. We're actually providing proper guidance. And this is not an isolated story. This is something that we hear all the time, where basically what AI gives people is some illusion of knowing more than they actually know. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, because AI can be very powerful for learning and exposing yourself to new ideas, but ultimately real knowledge on any area, not only software, comes from doing things and making enough mistakes that now you're able to have an informed opinion. And so the only real way to build software, even with AI, is either you partner with a technical partner. And again, it can be in many forms. You can have a technical co-founder, or you can work with a tech studio like us, or an individual freelancer that's good and engaged. Not all of them are. Or the other option is you actually need to put in the time to, learn the fundamentals and be able to make judgment calls yourself. If you're using AI, if you're using ChatGPT to ask questions and make important decisions throughout the life cycle of your product at your launch, you're going to end up in a very bad spot, and you're eventually going to be taking risks. Now, I'm not saying you can't start a prototype and build that with AI. Experimentation, completely fine. And I think this is the biggest benefit that we're getting from AI. But when you're planning to launch, and definitely after launch, you want to make sure that the decisions you're making are backed by real experience and not a chatbot.